The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
We all just didn't even think and just looked at each other, and then we just ran.
A community in mourning. What we have just learned about the victims of the deadly mass shooting at Florida State University. Then, the mistakenly deported migrant may no longer be in the El Salvadoran mega prison. What a senator said Kilmar Abrego Garcia told him. Then, national secrets made public. New details about the 1968 assassination of Senator Robert F. Kennedy. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thank you for joining us on your Friday. Right now, the Florida State University community is in mourning of the loss of 2 people killed in a mass shooting yesterday. A vigil was planned for this evening on campus for the victims, now identified as Teru Chaba and Robert Morales, both employees. The hospital treating 6 injured victims said 2 of them are expected to be released today. 3 others are in good condition, and the other is still in fair condition as of this morning. Students and staff have now retrieved the belongings they were ordered to leave behind during evacuation. One FSU grad who was on campus and heard the gunfire says her shoes fell off while running away.
Everybody just ran different directions. I was with 2 girls, and I don't know which direction they went, but we all just didn't even think and just looked at each other, and then we just ran.
Authorities say the suspect is the son of a Leon County Sheriff's deputy and is an FSU student. The deputy's former service weapon was said to be used in the attack. No motive has been determined yet. Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen is back home after meeting with Kilmar Abrego Garcia in El Salvador. The Democrat said the mistakenly deported migrant told him he'd been transferred from the maximum security prison to a lower level facility. El Salvador's president said his country would still not return Abrego Garcia to the U.S. The Supreme Court has ordered the Trump administration to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return, but officials say they can't force that to happen.
This man is a subject and citizen of El Salvador, and El Salvador, as a sovereign country, has informed us repeatedly and publicly that it is their desire and intention to retain custody of him. And of course, we as a U.S. government cannot forcibly retrieve him against the wishes of El Salvador.
The Trump administration insists Abrego Garcia is an MS-13 gang member who would have been deported anyway. His attorneys have denied he's in MS-13. According to Fox News, the police gang unit in Maryland identified him as a member of the MS-13 gang in a 2022 Homeland Security Investigations report. That report also said that in 2019, Abrego Garcia was a human trafficking suspect. We are looking to see what happens today to a detained man the government called an MS-13 leader on the East Coast. Lawyers for Henry Villatoro Santos are asking a judge to stop his case from being dismissed. The Justice Department is looking to drop his case to speed up his deportation. The FBI arrested him in Northern Virginia last month. New developments. President Trump emphasizes the war in Ukraine must end quickly. It comes after Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned if it's not possible to end the conflict, the U.S. may move on. Pressed for a timeline, Trump says he has no specific number of days before the U.S. walks away.
If for some reason one of the 2 parties makes it very difficult, we're just going to say you're foolish, you're fools, you're horrible people, and we're going to just take a pass. But hopefully we won't have to do that.
Trump says Rubio is right in that U.S. officials want to see it end, but Trump is optimistic that a peace deal will get done. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar reports from Washington.
Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio in different parts of Europe Friday, delivering very different tones on the future of Ukraine.
We do feel optimistic that we can hopefully bring this war, this very brutal war, to a close.
We want to help, but if it's not going to happen, we need to know now because we have other things we have to deal with.
Rubio, fresh off talks with officials from Ukraine, the UK, Germany, and France, clearly running out of patience in seeking an end to Russia's war. He says President Trump is too.
We need to figure out here now within a matter of days whether this is doable in the short term, because if it's not, then I think we're just going to move on.
The White House is not publicly exerting maximum pressure on Russia to be the one to lay down its weapons and end its invasion of Ukraine. But last week, the president did post on social media, Russia has to get moving. And on Friday, he said this.
If for some reason one of the two parties makes it very difficult, we're just going to say you're foolish, you're fools, you're horrible people, and we're going to just take a pass.
Back in Washington, less than 24 hours earlier, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent made news that after an extremely turbulent process,
you're gambling with World War III.
The administration and Ukrainian President Zelensky have tentative plans to sign a mineral sharing deal next week.
We went straight to the big deal, and I think it's an 80-page agreement, and that's what will be signed.
If it works, the deal could be a first step toward peace because America would have a financial stake in Ukrainian sovereignty and stability. At least that's how NATO partners see it. And if there was a full peace deal, NATO partners plan to step in with military reinforcement to deter future invasion. But if the U.S. walks away from peace talks, that's all up in the air. 3 months into this administration, ending the war proving much more complicated than President Trump implied while campaigning.
And I'll have that done. I'll have that done in 24 hours. I'll have it done.
Well, I was being a little bit sarcastic when I said that. What I really mean is I'd like to get it settled.
In Washington, I'm Atrel Nashar reporting.
A federal judge says the Trump administration cannot immediately fire hundreds of Consumer Financial Protection Bureau employees. The judge previously blocked the administration from dismantling the Bureau. The administration reportedly wants to downsize the Bureau by 90%. A hearing has been set for the end of the month to determine the next steps. The Education Department is telling Harvard University to hand over records related to foreign funding and foreign faculty and expelled students. Today, Education Secretary Linda McMahon claimed Harvard has not been transparent about its relationships with foreign sources and governments. A Harvard spokesperson denied the accusations. The Wisconsin Supreme Court says the state's governor acted legally when he made an unusual edit to Wisconsin's budget. The original version passed by Republican lawmakers increased school funding limits through the end of this school year. But Democratic Governor Tony Evers changed 2025 to 2425, extending these increases for 4 centuries. The justices ruled this was within his veto authority. Some Democrats within the party are promising to try to oust members they view as ineffective. As national correspondent Matt Gelka explains, the party is still deciding which direction it needs to go in the wake of 2024 losses.
Former President Joe Biden briefly back in the spotlight, trying to push back on the Trump administration as the Democratic Party tries to find its way.
Fewer than 100 days, this new administration has made done so much damage and so much destruction. It's kind of breathtaking it could happen that soon.
A new UMass poll shows both parties underwater with voters. Republicans have 41% approval and only 29% approve of the job Democrats are doing. Democratic National Committee Vice Chair David Hogg promised to spend $20 million to primary incumbent Democrats in safe districts to try and inject new life into the party.
Only 27% of our base is approving of where we are right now as a party. And we lost voting shares with every single demographic except predominantly older voters and highly educated voters. That is a huge problem.
The plan reportedly has House Democrats fuming, but the battle between progressives and traditionalists probably isn't going away anytime soon. Progressive icons Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are drawing huge crowds, even in red states.
We want a government of the people, by the people, for the people, not a government of the billionaire class.
Longtime strategist James Carville says some of the progressive views, specifically focusing on identity politics, are driving voters away.
Your wildly naive and impractical worldview is not consistent with electoral majorities. So maybe we need to have a schism.
Former Bill Clinton advisor Doug Sosnick told Politico he's not surprised there's no harmony in the party right now. Sosnick says the party is going through an overdue rebrand as numbers and approval ratings slide.
I think we are better off not talking about social issues. And to the extent that we do, I think we should try to figure out how to neutralize those issues so that we can move back to the issues that we can win on, which are economic.
Now, other members of the party suggest voters are taking note of who is showing real fight, even when Democrats are mostly powerless in Washington right now.
Matt, and as you know, this really, at least publicly, really boiling over in the wake of the presidential election. As we enter what seems to be a new chapter, what are Democrats saying about the attempt to primary their own members?
Well, they're not taking it too well. Some called it a mistake and a disappointment. There's also a worry it will hurt the chances of Democrats trying to win back a majority in the House. Now, Hogg says they'll only focus on safe Democratic districts, not competitive ones that could sacrifice a chance at the majority.
Live from Washington, D.C., Matt Gelka, thank you. A court date for the suspected United Healthcare CEO murderer has been postponed, according to Fox 5 New York. Luigi Mangione was supposed to appear in court today following his federal indictment yesterday. He's now facing a murder charge that could result in the death penalty. Mangione has already pleaded not guilty to state charges. He'll be arraigned next Friday. Coming up next, over 10,000 pages of RFK assassination records just released. What's in these never-before-seen documents? Then, where tens of millions of Americans are at risk for giant hail and tornadoes tonight. Then later, the financial burden that uninsured drivers are placing on people who follow the law. We'll be right back. Around 10,000 pages of records related to the 1968 assassination of Senator Robert F. Kennedy are now public. Many include handwritten notes by the gunman who said the Democratic presidential candidate, quote, must be disposed of. Sirhan acknowledges having an obsession with killing Kennedy, filing notebook pages and envelopes with writings like RFK must be disposed of like his brother was, and RFK must die. Many of the files were already released but not digitized. Officials say more documents will come out. New developments. The U.S. is planning to impose port fees on Chinese ships as part of a larger strategy to revive shipbuilding here in the U.S. Starting in mid-October, Chinese ship owners will be charged $50 per ton of cargo. Now, these fees will increase each year for 3 years, and President Trump maintains that he's making headway on trade deals with Beijing. So far, he's applied 145% tariffs on China. He put a 90-day pause on across-the-board duties against the rest of the world. Etsy is working to make domestic shopping easier in the wake of these tariffs. The e-commerce company's CEO announced Etsy is coming up with ways to let consumers know which small businesses are in their country. Etsy also insists it's committed to helping shop owners navigate changes from tariffs, releasing new guidance for sellers. Etsy says over 60 million items are shipped in the U.S. President Trump plans to visit Italy very soon, as is considering holding a meeting between the U.S. and Europe while he is there. That's according to a statement today from the White House and the office of Italian Premier Giorgia Meloni. It comes after the leaders met yesterday at the White House discussing trade. Vice President Vance continued the conversation on tariffs with Meloni today in Rome.
Italy and the United States are committed to enhance their strong cooperation. We think Italy can be a reliable and a serious partner in Europe, in the Mediterranean area, and so we are proud to have this special relation with the U.S. and with this administration.
Vance also attended Good Friday services with his family in St. Peter's Basilica. He plans to meet with the Vatican Secretary of State this weekend. And as you take a look at the weather radar behind me right now, 50 million Americans are at risk for severe thunderstorms from parts of the southern plains into the mid-Mississippi Valley and southwestern Great Lakes. The greatest threat is happening right now through early tomorrow morning. Very large hail and severe wind gusts are forecast to be the main hazards. A few tornadoes also possible. New information, the new U.S. ambassador to Israel makes his first public appearance in Jerusalem. Mike Huckabee, once presidential hopeful and the former governor of Arkansas, appeared at the Western Wall, the holiest Jewish prayer site. He inserted a prayer into the wall saying it was handwritten by President Trump. It comes as international mediators, including the U.S., try to get a ceasefire deal back on track. Huckabee said he prays for the peace of Jerusalem.
I also come with a prayer that all of the hostages will come home now and that we will bring them home. And that is the prayer of the president as well.
Huckabee has supported Israel's right to annex the West Bank and denied the existence of Palestinians in the past, but now says it's not his prerogative to carry out that policy, and he serves at the pleasure of the president. The U.S. launched a deadly attack against the Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen overnight. Airstrikes targeted an oil port held by the Houthis. The rebel group says the attack killed 74 people and wounded over 170 others. It is the deadliest known attack under President Trump's new campaign. Central Command says the purpose was to eliminate the Houthis' source of fuel, not to harm the people of Yemen. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we start with renewed concerns over wildfires in North Carolina.
Everywhere you look, hazardous conditions to contend with.
When you have these slopes and rolling hills and mountains like we have in western North Carolina, along with all the hurricane debris, the dry, cool winds.
It's got to be challenging.
Yeah.
Firefighters working long 10 to 15-hour shifts.
They'll go along these lines and look at tree snags and cut them down so that if they were to catch on fire, they wouldn't fall over and catch the other side of the containment line on fire.
For these men and women, the work starts even before wildfire season does, especially when every second counts.
It could have taken weeks to cut through some of those roads and areas if they hadn't done it prior. So it was a game changer.
This towering display of cocaine weighs nearly 1,300 pounds. The seizure stems from a traffic stop at about 7:30 Thursday morning on I-10 East near mile marker 832. Investigators say the driver, 43-year-old Kedra Parker of Florida, committing a traffic violation while driving a 15-passenger van towing a U-Haul trailer. K9 Rip, seen here in a BPD photo taken several years ago, alerted to the presence of narcotics. A search revealed 12 black and yellow totes containing about 1,276 pounds of cocaine. Police seized the drugs, hauled Parker to jail, and began investigating to see how high up the food chain they can go. In the drug investigation, one of the largest seizures in the history of Southeast Texas.
Standing here today is not an easy task, but I will not let shame and fear silence me.
In front of his convicted abuser, a former Sumner High School student urged a Pierce County judge to keep Jacob Jackson locked up for years.
And to ensure that no one else has to endure what I have.
The former high school boys basketball coach was found guilty in January of 19 sex crime counts, including rape and molestation.
You are grooming, communicating inappropriately, molesting, and raping my son. For that, I will never forgive you.
Washington law states the max penalty for these crimes to be 120 months behind bars. But Pierce County Superior Court Judge Philip Sorensen ruled there is a basis for an exceptional sentence of 40 years in prison.
I think the 40 years is a ruling that will impact Jake and his decisions.
Coming up, why a car accident could be more costly for people who have insurance, even if it wasn't their fault. We're back in 90 seconds. Getting into a car accident is obviously already a terrible experience, and now making it even worse. Spotlight on America found it's becoming more common to get hit by uninsured drivers. Nearly every state in the country requires you to have auto insurance, but despite that, more Americans than ever are going without or simply getting just the bare minimum required. National investigative correspondent Angie Moreski takes a closer look at this troubling trend.
Traffic in Washington, D.C., like any city, can be stressful. But making it even worse, nearly 1 in 4 drivers here don't have auto insurance, putting the burden on drivers who do if there's an accident.
I've had that happen. Someone hit me from the back and they did not have insurance.
Our nation's capital is 3rd worst in the country for uninsured motorists, behind Mississippi and New Mexico. Luckily, D.C. resident Ryan Vincent did have insurance, but she got stuck with all the bills, even though the accident wasn't her fault.
It's not pleasant, you know?
Unfortunately, it's a growing problem for all of us. New data from the Insurance Research Council shows 1 in 3 drivers nationwide is either uninsured or underinsured, up 10% since 2019.
It makes the roads less safe for everybody.
Mark Friedlander, Senior Director of Media Relations at the Insurance Information Institute, says it's leading to more hazardous driving.
We see more reckless behavior behind the wheel for uninsured motorists.
And he says it makes it more costly for those with auto insurance. Policyholders pay about $16 billion a year more for additional coverage to protect against and underinsured motorists. That's about $100 extra a year per vehicle. And premiums are also going up. A Bankrate survey found auto insurance rates are up more than 30% since 2023.
Premiums are increasing. Is that a big part of the problem?
Clearly, it is a significant factor. Families need to choose, where are we going to spend our household budget?
Friedlander says rising costs for auto repairs and medical care are major reasons contributing to rate hikes.
It's a serious problem for every driver out there.
Morgan & Morgan personal injury attorney Gil Light says they see the dire consequences of under and uninsured motorists every day.
If you're in a very serious crash, you can easily run up hundreds of thousands of dollars in bills. If there's absolutely no insurance, that's a very difficult situation. There's not much that can be done.
Nearly 1 in 5 accidents with injuries involve damages higher than the at-fault driver's coverage limits.
Nobody understands this until they're in it.
The best defense, he says, is getting supplemental coverage to protect your interests if you're hit by someone who lacks coverage.
I get the whole package because I just want to be able to cover my bases in the event that I have something happen.
Penalties for driving uninsured vary from state to state, but can be significant, including fines, license suspension, having your car impounded, even jail time for repeat offenders. For Spotlight on America, I'm Angie Moreski.
Coming up, what's different about this year's White House Easter egg roll? We'll explain right after this. Today, Christians mark Good Friday. Special services being held around the world, and many Christians are fasting. It leads up to this Easter, this Sunday. On Monday, the White House will host the annual Easter egg roll, a tradition that began in 1878. Kids are invited to decorate eggs and play games on the South Lawn. 30,000 eggs will be used in the event, despite the recent shortage. This year, the White House has corporate sponsors, which will raise money for the White House Historical Association. And that's going to do it for us for this edition of the National News Desk. We invite you to join us again this evening as we discuss Generation Beta and how they're believed to be different from those before it, as well as why the workplace is urged to prepare for this generation now. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tonight at 10.